Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and I recently got the Platinum Trophy on Sonic Frontiers. There will be spoilers in this video, but here is my review of that game. Sonic Frontiers is one of the higher rated 3D Sonic games of the last 20 years, and to a degree I can understand why, but for the most part I don't know why it got so much praise. Starting the game for the first time, it feels like Sonic, but then it quickly becomes apparent that 80% of the game is set in a variety of open worlds, which feel a bit pointless for the most part. In fairness to it, the worlds do look real nice, and when you eventually get the hang of speeding around the maps, it is a lot of fun, aside from the occasional clip on a speed boost which throws you into a 2D section of the world you can't escape from. So how does this game feel compared to other 3D Sonic games? It feels very clunky half the time, and the buttons don't feel responsive enough to warrant some of the intricate puzzles. Sonic will often lose all speed when he jumps, which makes it quite jarring, and don't even think about double jumping. It almost feels like Sonic comes to a complete halt. When you get locked into a 2D section, it's quite annoying, especially if you're just wanting to zoom across the world to some part of the map, and when you're trying to solve puzzles in a 3D environment, the camera is your worst enemy. In fact, I'd say in the whole game, your camera serves as a bigger threat than the actual bosses. And the pop-in of the objects in the open world happens about 10 feet in front of you sometimes, which shows that it's not been very well optimised. Only a small part of the game is actually the linear levels which we're accustomed to for a Sonic game, and it feels like these were just super glued on at the very end because the open world didn't feel enough for a Sonic game. I genuinely don't see the point in having these 60-second levels other than to artificially expand the game. You can also go fishing if you want, for some reason, and collect something called Cocos and some spiky hearts and berries to boost your ring capacity, speed, power and defense to 99 for some reason. It almost feels like it's trying to be an RPG at this point, and some RPGs try to artificially expand the game. Speaking of artificially expanding the game, there is one point where you have to get 5 million points on a pinball minigame for some reason. And the unlucky thing is, you're at the mercy of the RNG as to whether it falls down the sides or not, and not to mention the times the ball clips through the flappers. There are many different forced minigames in Sonic Frontiers, and it almost feels like they genuinely have no purpose other than to artificially inflate the size of the game. To put it into context, it took me just 22 hours to get the Platinum Trophy, and less than 10 of those hours were on the story. Oh, the story. Let's talk about the story. There's a half-hearted attempt at one in this game, and it tries to trigger you at the end to make you think, oh, wow, that was good. But in reality, it's not. It's kinda lame. Most of the time in the open world, you've got to go out and find some hearts, or spanners, or medals, just so you can go and talk to Amy, Knuckles and Tails. It's supposed to be fun, but you get bored quickly. Sonic has never been a big storyteller game, so why they try to is beyond me. Although it sure beats the weird ass story from Sonic 06. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, isn't even the main antagonist of this game, which again makes it feel even less like a Sonic game, but the first 3 worlds at least try to build up some kind of story. Then, next thing you know, you're thrust into a world where there is no other purpose than to climb to the top of 6 incredibly tall towers for literally no reason other than to artificially extend the length of the game. Literally, there is no purpose to this. And what makes it worse is the glitchiness of Sonic and the physics where you just end up falling down anyway because he doesn't want to hook onto a rail. The enemies are genuinely intriguing though, and it's clear that some thought was taken on creating them and how to actually beat them. Sometimes you'll come across some super enemies known as Guardians in the open worlds, which serve as like mini boss fights. I found these to be tricky at first, but when you get the hang of it, they're not so difficult. I like the enemy variety of these Guardians, and it looks like genuinely some thought went into creating them and being unique. The soundtrack to the game is rather bland, but there's a song specifically written for the game which is okay. There are musical notes that you can pick up all around the open worlds which allow you to change the music you're listening to at any given point, and these can be music to levels like Angel Island, or they can be songs from Sonic Adventure. This was kind of cool, and it made me go out of my way a little bit to get some of these notes, but once again, it's artificially extending the length of the game. The sound effects are on point though, and they feel fluid enough to actually be impressive. Naturally, you've got your classic ring collect sound grinding on the rails and the little boom when you hit an enemy. The sound effects do stand out in this game more than the soundtrack. To me, it feels like this game could have been literally anything other than a Sonic game, and that Sonic was just thrown in as a character. Not everything has to be an open world, and it felt like Sega just did this to appease the people who think that every game needs to be an open world. But I very much doubt we'll get back to a point where Sonic was good, unless they stick to the style of something like Sonic Mania. That was great, that game. But looking back at fond memories of Sonic Adventure, it does make you realise that 3D Sonic has always been janky and jarring. But is that the reason that we can let Sonic Frontiers have a pass? No, not in the slightest. Sega have never mastered Sonic in the 3D realm, but of all the modern Sonic games since 2006, this is probably one of the better ones. Sonic Frontiers as a game is not a bad game, but it's certainly not a good game. If you threw Mario in there, it would probably feel more natural. But imagine if Crash Bandicoot was open world, or if Bioshock wasn't set in Rapture and it was set in this big massive open world, or even if Resident Evil had a world like the Elder Scrolls. Some games are just not meant to be open world, and forcing one like that feels wrong. But after spending 22 hours in Sonic Frontiers, I did enjoy the game. But if I wasn't going for the platinum, I would have spent considerably less time with the game, probably around 10 hours. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it 5 out of 10. Fun, but not fluid enough for a Sonic game. And way too much bloat to artificially extend the length of the game. To a lot of people, Sonic has always been that 2D hedgehog that runs from left to right across the screen, occasionally up and occasionally down. And then you've got the people who love the very first 3D style Sonic games on Dreamcast, like Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes. They were good back in the day, but try playing them now. They'll feel wrong, they'll feel janky, they won't work properly. Like I said, Sega has never ever been able to master Sonic in the 3D realm. And it's not a reason that we can say that Sonic Frontiers is good because of the past with Sonic. Realistically, all games need to be tested, all games need to be pushed at their best possible quality, and to me, the best possible quality of Sonic Frontiers is a long way away. And that's unfortunate because overall, it probably could have been a lot better than what it actually was. Thank you very much for watching, and if you would, please give this video a like, drop a comment, and maybe even subscribe. There's some more videos of mine hanging around the screen now, so if you fancy watching one of those, I would really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and take care.